For our next unit, we are going to take a look at a style of art called op art. When something plays tricks on your eyes, it is called an optical illusion. Op art is artwork that plays tricks on our eyes. In other words, the style of art tricks the brain into seeing things that aren't there. Some learning objectives. We are going to identify optical illusions, artworks, and the artists that belong to this art movement. We are going to understand better the science behind op art. We're going to look at manipulating the art elements of space, line, shapes, in order to create an illusion of depth or a sense of form. We're going to learn to blend tints and shades and use the art elements of color and value in our final art. I want you to look at this design. Which segment is longer? So is it this section right here on the left or this section right here on the right? So it's talking about the parts of the line between the arrow pieces. If you said that they were the same, you are correct. Because of the way the arrows have been placed here on the right side, it creates the optical illusion that this segment, this horizontal line, is shorter, but it's not. They are actually the same width. This is an optical illusion. All right, when you look at this checkerboard pattern, I want you to take a look at the horizontal lines. Are they parallel, meaning are they the same space apart and will they never intersect? Or do they slope? Are they angled where they will eventually run into each other? What do you think? The correct answer is they are parallel. So it's an optical illusion created by the placement of the checkerboard squares that gives us the sense that the lines are actually sloping towards each other. What about this one? Compare the red lines. How much shorter is the front red line compared to the back red line? As you might have guessed it from our other ones, they are the exact same length. It's a perspective illusion by having lines that go back, having this line be taller and have its lines connect to the line itself creates the illusion that this one is actually taller than this one, when in reality, they are the exact same length. What do you notice with this artwork? If you see little gray circles on the white grid lines in between the squares, they don't actually exist. That is an optical illusion created by the width of the black squares compared to the white lines, and the contrast between the white grid lines and the black squares. What shapes do you see in this artwork? Our mind thinks that there are dots in between these plus signs, or that there are even squares, when in reality, they're just two intersecting lines repeated over and over in a pattern. Do you see it? Does it feel like these snakes are spinning, or that this artwork is moving? This is an optical illusion that is created by the repetition of the shapes and the intensity of the colors and the contrast of the colors that the artists use. And through these choices with the art elements, it causes our eyes to see movement in a graphic artwork that has no movement. So about op art. During the 1960s, artists used devices such as high contrast, meaning big changes between light and dark, or sizes. They used different shapes and patterns and even colors to create optical illusions. A moire pattern or geometric shapes and contrasting colors can create the illusion of movement like we saw in the last slide. And you can see op art uses a lot of repetition and pattern in its design. There are mathematical and scientific properties that the artists are using to create these optical illusions. So they really are interested in how our eyes translate different colors together, how different shapes, when arranged in a certain way and with different colors, how our brain reads that information. So they studied how the eye's retina processes information and how that information is translated in our brain. So let's compare these two small squares. Which one is brighter? Is the orange on the left side brighter, or is the orange on the blue larger square brighter? To me, it looks like the square on the right, on the blue square, is brighter. The reason for that is because they are of a higher contrast than the red and the orange on the left are more similar in color. So this gets back into color theory and color schemes. Blue and orange are what we call complementary colors, and so they're going to have a greater difference between the colors than like orange and red, because orange uses yellow and red to mix it. It has some of those properties of the red that are showing in the orange, thus making it less noticeable. So op art found that by changing color and line, our perception can be fooled. So if you look at these colors here, these are also complementary colors. So red and green are complementary. They're opposite each other on the color wheel, and blue and orange are opposite each other on the color wheel. So two colors directly across from each other on the color wheel have equal intensity, and they have high contrast. And so that's how some of the vibration that we feel with our eyes in these designs, or the movement, is through using this understanding of colors and color properties. So some famous op artists are M.C. Escher. He was famous for creating lots of different kinds of op arts. He used what was called tessellations, where he would take interlocking shapes and he would have them go through a metamorphosis where they change from one to the other. So we can see this here with the birds transforming into the fish. He would use an illusion of line and value to create the feeling that impossible things were happening in his designs, like the hands that are drawing each other. He also would create these scenes, like this middle bottom image here, where there are these stairs, these impossible stairs that look realistic, but that couldn't actually exist anywhere. And here's a self-portrait of him here on the right. He's looking into a sphere held by a hand. So he really knew a lot about scientific and mathematic properties, and that's how he was able to create these designs. He was respected by professionals in both of those fields with his artworks that he was created. There's another op artist named Bridget Riley. She is famous for creating op artwork that look like it's moving. She uses a lot of lines and basic shapes, and it's through the repetition of these and her use of color that it creates this illusion of movement. And then there's another artist, Victor Vasarely, who is known as the father of op art. He was a graphic designer and began his art career with op art using a lot of black and white shapes and images. Let's take a closer look at his work now.
Cet air qui m'obsède jour et nuit, cet air n'est pas né d'aujourd'hui. Il vient d'aussi loin que je viens, traîné par 100 000 musiciens. Un jour cet air me rendra folle, sans foi j'ai voulu dire pourquoi, mais il m'a coupé la parole. Il parle toujours avant moi et sa voix couvre ma voix. Padam, 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 il a me fait le coup du souviens-toi. Padam, 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 c'est un air qui me montre du doigt, et je traîne après moi comme une drôle d'erreur, cet air qui sait tout par cœur. Il dit rappelle-toi tes amours.
So that gives you, whoops. So that gives you an idea of op art. So for our project, we're going to do an op art painting. We're going to create an optical illusion using shapes, lines, values. We are going to learn how to mix tints and shades and how to blend them to create this illusion of depth, that things are popping off of the page or recessing back into the page. So for this, there are a few vocabulary words that you need to know. So again, value is the darkness or lightness of a color. When we mix a tint, we are creating a lighter version or a lighter value of one color or hue. When we mix a shade, we are making a darker value of one color or hue. So to make a tint, we're going to take the color that we have, like red here, and we would add white to it. To make a shade, we would take our red and we would add black to it. So we are going to be creating what's called a monochromatic color scheme. So it's where we take one color and we create different tints and shades of it. So a fun fact for you, mono means one, chroma means color. So the name of this color scheme tells us what to do. So monochromatic means one color, right? So we are going to be using this one color and creating a monochromatic op art. Here are a few examples for you to see. Some things to keep in mind for this artwork. These are the criteria that your artwork will be graded on. It needs to be a neatly drawn design, straight lines to create a clear op art design. We need to accurately mix our tints and shades to create contrasting values. Our tints and shades need to be placed adjacently or next to each other in a way that creates an illusion of depth. It needs to be neatly painted with straight edges or clean edges, no drips or smudges. And we want to work on smoothly blending changes between our tints and shades. So when we change from light to dark, we don't want to have any breaks or lines between our different values. So this project is worth a total of 50 points. All right, if you have any questions, please ask your teacher. I look forward to seeing what you create with this project.